In this chapter, Louise is going to tell us that poverty is just a mindset. The thumb is mental and represents worry. I'm worried. Accidents are expressions of anger. If you get in a car accident, don't call 911, call yourself an Rufus. We have a new friend named Rufus in the house, so he may be chiming in with his opinion ever so often. So on this channel, we're going to slowly start to evolve out of the Rachel and Dave Hollis universe, but not that far. This person that we're going to be speaking about today, Louise Hay, is actually another book recommendation that came from Rachel Hollis. Rachel Hollis has been talking about this author for the last year or so since she's gotten into her spirituality and new age kick.
You Can Heal Your Life it's gotta be 25 years old, and it is still so good.
And this book is surprisingly god-awful batshit crazy. This book is filled with things that are ridiculous, hurtful, dangerous, very self-blaming, victim-blaming. This book sucks. I'm not gonna spend this whole video talking about who Louise Hay is as an author. She also owned a publishing company called Hay House before she passed away. Hay House is very much still alive and well. She was really popular back in the 1980s, and she kind of found her mainstream success during the AIDS epidemic.
She held these support groups for people with AIDS, and she was basically the only self-help person to do that at that time.
And because of this, it got the attention of Oprah, and basically she got to go on the Oprah show and then talk about this book. It, skyrocketed to success, and the rest is history. But nowadays, people looking back at that type of content, it's not really revered as like revolutionary as it was back then. This book gets really diagnostic, if that makes sense. It gets into like actual medical conditions and what causes them. Now, again, this woman has zero medical training, but her big claim to fame was that she cured her own cancer by forgiving herself. So yeah, let's dive into the book. So it's about 250 pages. It's very short. I read it in about one day, and that was with me highlighting and taking notes, and it's a quick read. The book starts out before pre-chapter 1, some of Louise's philosophies. So let's talk about it.
The ones that really stick out to me are, we create every so-called illness in our body. The second one that concerns me is, releasing resentment will dissolve even cancer. I'm gonna need some evidence to support that, please.
And here's another one just from the philosophy standpoint that she says, all dis-ease comes from a state of unforgiveness. Whenever we are ill, we need to search our hearts to see who it is we need to forgive. I need to forgive a lot of people, and I am totally healthy. So how to explain that? People have diseases, have illnesses, have ailments for all types of reasons. Here come the outrageous claims section of the book. Now, these are not the only outrageous claims in this book, but here's where it begins, and this is where I start to go, oh Lord, save us, help us, God, please, I can't read anymore. This is from a section called The Problem is Rarely the Real Problem. There was another woman who had terrible breath. It was uncomfortable to be around her. She was studying to be a minister, and her outer demeanor was pious and spiritual. Beneath this was a raging current of anger and jealousy that exploded now and then when she thought someone might be threatening her position. Her inner thoughts were expressed through her breath, and she was offensive even when she pretended to be loving. So this woman has bad breath because she's angry. Maybe she just didn't brush her teeth. It gets worse. That was a light one. He was only 15 when his mother brought him to me with Hodgkin's disease and 3 months to live. His mother was understandably hysterical and difficult to deal with, but the boy was bright and clever and wanted to live. I taught him to love and accept himself, and he got well. He is now grown up and appears on Broadway with regularity. Can we get a name so I can research? Can I go to his play? Can I go listen to him sing and perform and talk to him and confirm that this story is real? No? Okay, great, cool, thanks. Here's another one. They will often tell me they can't love themselves because they are so fat, or as one girl put it, too round at the edges. I explain that they are fat because they don't love themselves. Moving on. Now we're in chapter 7. We're going to figure out how we can take these affirmations that Louise has channeled for us or created in her mind and delivered to us on this paper, how we can use them to actually physically and emotionally heal ourselves. In a paragraph called Physical Releasing, a while ago, I had a pain in my shoulder for a day or two. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't go away. Finally, I sat down and asked myself, what is happening here? What am I feeling? I realized, quote, it feels like burning, burning, burning. That means anger. What are you angry about? So if your shoulder is hurting right now, ask yourself, who are you angry at? Forgive them, and then your pain will go away. Now we're at the chapter on relationships, and this part deals with the workplace, your workplace relationships. In a chapter called Exercise, Us versus Them. If you have a boss who is critical and impossible to please, look within. Either you do that on some level, or you have a belief that bosses are always critical and impossible to please. So it's definitely not your boss's problem, it's a you problem. If you have an employee who won't obey or doesn't follow through, look to see where you do that and clean it up. Firing someone is too easy. It doesn't clear the pattern. If you have an insubordinate employee, it's your fault as well. If there's a coworker who won't cooperate and be part of the team, look to see how you could have attracted this. Where are you non-cooperative? Again, like everything is your fault. If a coworker is not pulling his weight, your fault. If your boss is being hypercritical and abusive to you, your fault. I just find this like, what is this helping? Just to admit like, okay, it must be my fault. Like just repressing any sort of external behaviors towards you. Like, does that actually make you feel better? Or does it just make you feel like, well, I guess it's all my fault. I just live this life and hope for the best. Like there's really no solution. You're supposed to just like, get over it, I guess. I mean, maybe that is good advice. I don't know. I don't feel like that would make me happier and less disease-ridden personally, but you know, I guess Louise would know best. In a chapter called Affirmation for Work, we're gonna get real controversial for a second, so sorry, but this is in the book. If there is someone at work who bothers you, again, bless them with love every time you think of them. And each and every one of us is every single quality. While we may not choose to do so, we are all capable of being a Hitler or a Mother Teresa. I don't know if that's true. I think Hitler and Mother Teresa were both very specific cases. I don't think that is the norm that we're all just ignoring within us. I think those were two very unique individuals on a spectrum of humanity, but okay. She goes on to say, if you see only the good qualities in this person, then that is what he or she has to show you, no matter what behavior is displayed towards others. Or unless you're Jewish. That would probably make Hitler treat you differently. Shut the fuck up, Louise. God. In chapter 13, called Prosperity, Louise decides to get real with us. She was a skeptic too, just like me, but then she learned that the truth is that abundance is everywhere. In this chapter, Louise is going to tell us that poverty is just a mindset. She says, the first time I heard the concept, the abundance of the universe is available to everyone, I thought it was ridiculous. Look at all the poor people, I said to myself. Look at my own seemingly hopeless poverty. To hear your poverty is only a belief in your consciousness only made me angry. Me too. It took me many years to realize and accept that I was the only person responsible for my lack of prosperity. She just talked about in a couple chapters ago that she couldn't buy a car because she was a woman and they wouldn't give women credit at the car dealership, that she had to call in a favor from the bank to get this done because she was simply a woman. That's not relevant here in this story, that could be holding you back from being abundant in your life? No? Okay, cool. Let's get past that. Okay. Then she talks about loving your bills, that, quote, it's essential that we stop worrying about money and stop resenting our bills. Many people treat bills as punishments to be avoided if possible. A bill is acknowledgement of our ability to pay. When you have $1 million coming in a month and your bills are $1,000, yeah, no problems. Pay it, gratefully. But when the majority of Americans, at least, are paycheck to paycheck, I think it's fair to be a little bit stressed and think like, if I had a mental emergency, if I had a mental emergency or a medical emergency, I would be homeless in 6 months. That's, something you should probably think about when, knowing which bill to pay. It's just, again, this is like a very privileged mindset to have. The fact that you don't have to worry about your bills, you can just be thankful for your bills. Yeah, wonderful, I would love that too. But the reality is a lot of people that are probably gonna be searching out content like this because they feel hopeless in their situation, they have to prioritize bills and stress about bills to make it. So where's the solution for that? Just, again, repress? Just repress? Okay. That's good. Just ignore and repress. That seems to be the theme throughout the book here. In a paragraph called Rejoice in Others' Good Fortune, she says, there is a law of demand and supply. Demand comes first. Money has a way of coming to where it's needed. The poorest family can almost always gather together the money for a funeral. Like, really? A poor family can come up with the money for a funeral is proof that there's abundance for everybody? Okay, so now we're going to talk about some parts of the body and what they represent and how they can show up as disease in our life. Ready? The ears represent the capacity to hear. Seems fairly logical to me. An earache would indicate that there's anger about what is heard. So I've stopped being angry at the age of 5 because that was the last time I had an earache that I remember. So I've just been happy ever since. If you've seen this channel, you know that's not true. If this was true, I would have an earache every single day of my life. And also a blindness because I'm angry constantly. Earaches are common with children. They often have to listen to stuff going on in the household they really don't want to hear. Oh, okay, that explains it. Deafness represents a long-standing refusal to listen to someone. But what if you're born deaf? Do you just preemptively never wanted to hear from anyone? Okay. Just like, this is so ridiculous. Oh my God, it's just like one woman's ramblings. That doesn't make sense. This is one I shared on my Instagram a while back because it was so funny and weird. Whenever I see small children wearing glasses, I know there is stuff going on in their household they do not want to look at. If they can't change the experience, they will diffuse the sight so they don't have to see it so clearly. So if your child needs glasses, that means you have a messy family life, according to this book. The next time you get a headache, stop and ask yourself where and how you have just made yourself wrong. Forgive yourself, let it go, and the headache will dissolve back into the nothingness from where it came. Or take 17 Excedrins and sleep all day. That also helps me. Migraine headaches are created by people who want to be perfect and who create a lot of pressures on themselves. Surprisingly, the solution for this is, interestingly, migraine headaches can almost always be alleviated by masturbation. If you do it as soon as you feel a migraine coming on. Well, you don't gotta tell me twice, baby. Thanks, Louise. I'm getting a little pain. I better go handle this really quick. I'll be right back. Sinus problems, felt right in the face and so close to the nose, represent being irritated by someone in your life, someone who is close to you. You might even feel they are bearing down on you. So if you got a stuffy nose, look around for the true culprit. Who's annoying you? Been in a car accident? Don't tell Louise Hay, she will not like you. Whenever I see a person wearing one of those collars, I know this person is being very self-righteous and stubborn about not seeing the other side of an issue. Sore throats are always anger. If a cold is involved, then there is mental confusion too. Laryngitis usually means you are so angry you cannot speak. The fingers each have meaning. If you cut your index finger, there is probably anger and fear that has to do with your ego in some current situation. The thumb is mental and represents worry. I'm worried. The middle finger has to do with sex and anger. When you're angry, hold your middle finger and watch the anger dissolve. Wow, that worked. The breasts represent the mothering principle. When there are problems with the breasts, It usually means we are over-mothering either a person, a place, a thing, or an experience. If cancer is involved, okay, so if you have breast cancer, is what she's saying here, there is also deep resentment. Release the fear and know the intelligence of the universe resides in each of us. Okay. Heart attack people are never joyous people. I swear to God, that's a real quote in this book. If they do not take the time to appreciate the joys of life, they will just recreate another heart attack in time. I find that most bladder problems come from being pissed off, usually at a partner. I mean, I'll give her that one. It makes me laugh because she's pissed off. If you're a member of the LGBTQ+ community, this next section right here may be highly offensive to you, so buckle down, get ready, skip it if you want, but here we go. In heterosexual society, many women dread growing old because of the belief systems we have created around the glory of youth. It is not so difficult for the men, for they become distinguished with a bit of gray hair. The older man often gets respect, and people may even look up to him. Not so for most gay men, for they have created a culture that places tremendous emphasis on youth and beauty. Because of the ways gay people often treat other gays, for many gay men, the experience of getting old is something to dread. It is almost better to die than to get old. And AIDS is a disease that often kills. The suggestion that gay people brought it upon themselves because they like youth and prefer to look healthy and young than grow older, somehow that has manifested into creating the AIDS epidemic. This is the perfect way to lack empathy once again. This seems to be an excuse to not have empathy for anyone else. The gay community apparently is too self-absorbed and too narcissistic and too materialistic that all they care about is young, hot men. We're not talking about women at all here. I guess they don't count. Lesbians aren't involved in this equation. This is just gay men. They created the AIDS epidemic because they're so focused on youth and beauty. Yeah, I got some problems with this. Let's move on from that and talk about a few other physical conditions that are caused by your beliefs and thinking. If you're constipated, you need to let things go. That's funny. Varicose veins represent standing in a job or place that you hate. One of the quickest ways to heal skin problems is to nurture yourself by saying in your mind, quote, "I approve of myself," several hundred times a day. Yeah, that sounds like a really quick solution. Just say this mantra several hundred times a day. It'll only take you 24 hours. No big deal. Accidents are no accident. Like everything else in our lives, we create them. Accidents are expressions of anger. If you get in a car accident, don't call 911, call yourself an asshole. Cancer is a disease caused by deep resentment held for a long time until it literally eats away at the body. Okay, so what about a child who is born with cancer? Or what about a 6-month-old that develops leukemia? What is the answer for that, Louise? X plus Y equals Z. Oh, how wonderful a life it would be if that were true. Oh, I had a negative thought that I let fester for 25 years and now I have cancer of the stomach. Oh, it all makes so much sense. Yes, that would be wonderful, and that would help a lot of people not get into disorders and diseases, and maybe they could heal themselves, but that's not how life works. This is a fantasy book. This is a fiction book. None of this is real. If you're listening to this and going, I'm gonna, safeguard myself by never having a negative thought, you are delusional. I'm sorry, I'm really mad. This is not okay. This does not help anybody, especially people going through cancer. This is another pretty offensive one. Tumors are false growths. An oyster takes a tiny grain of sand and to protect itself grows a hard and shiny shell around it. We call it a pearl and think it's beautiful. We take an old hurt and nurse it and keep pulling the scab off it, and in time we have a tumor. I believe the reason women have so many tumors in the uterus area is that they take an emotional hurt, a blow to their femininity, and nurse it. I call this the, quote, "he done me wrong" syndrome. I mean, that's one way to explain it. Another could be that we don't have free healthcare in this country, so women aren't getting these things checked quickly enough. But it also could be that a man broke up with us, therefore we now have developed a tumor. Okay then. Now we've finally gotten to the list. The list is an actual table of disorders and diseases, what Louise believes causes these very serious, in some cases, disorders and diseases, and then a mantra that can help heal you or help prevent you from getting these issues. Let's read through just a couple.
Here's a good example: Alzheimer's disease. According to Louise, this means you have a refusal to deal with the world as it is, hopelessness and helplessness and anger. To cure yourself of Alzheimer's disease, you should say this mantra: there is always a new and better way for me to experience life. I forgive and release the past. I move into joy. Let's look at a funny one. If you have an itching anus, that means you have guilt over the past. Remorse. Say this mantra to yourself: I lovingly forgive myself. I am free. And now my butt is not itchy.
And for some reason, Louise decided to save the most juicy part of this whole book for last. It's her personal story of how she healed herself from cancer. And like I said at the top, this was really her claim to fame, that she healed herself from her own cancer. So I don't know why this wasn't front and center, but here we are. Let's talk about her story. Louise says, when I was a little girl of 18 months, I experienced my parents divorcing. Then she says, I have never been able to determine if my mother loved my stepfather or whether she just married him in order to provide a home for us. But it was not a good move. This man had been brought up in Europe in a heavy Germanic home with much brutality, and he had never learned any other way to manage a family. It was just about this time that a neighbor, an old wino, as I remember it, raped me. The man was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I was told repeatedly, quote, it was your fault. So I spent many years fearing that when he was released, he would come and get me for being so terrible as to put him in jail. I'm starting to see where Louise's thought process and beliefs come from, and it's all actually pretty heartbreaking and sad, and sounds like someone who needs help, not someone who needs to be giving advice as to how to heal your cancer. When I was 15, I could not take the sexual abuse any longer, and I ran away from home and from school. The job I found as a waitress in a diner seemed so much easier than the heavy yard work I was to do at home. I willingly gave my body to whoever was kind to me, and just after my 16th birthday, I gave birth to a baby girl. I felt it was impossible to keep her, however. I was able to find her a good, loving home. Then one day, I was diagnosed as having cancer. With my background of being raped at 5 and having been a battered child, it was no wonder I manifested cancer in the vaginal area. Like anyone else who has just been told they have cancer, I went into total panic. Yet because of all my work with clients, I knew that mental healing worked. And here I was, being given a chance to prove it to myself. After all, I had written the book on mental patterns, and I knew cancer was a disease of deep resentment that has been held for a long time until it literally eats away at the body. I had been refusing to be willing to dissolve all the anger and resentment at them over my childhood. If cancer or any other illness returns, I do not believe it is because they did not, quote, get it all out, but rather that the patient has made no mental change. He or she just recreates the same illness, perhaps in a different part of the body. So again, if you have a recurring cancer diagnosis, or you went into remission and then later are diagnosed with having cancer, it's because you didn't change your mental patterns fast enough, quickly enough, deep enough. That's why your cancer came back. I was given a very strict diet with lots of green vegetables and not much else. I even had colonics 3 times a week for the first month. I did not have an operation. However, as a result of all the thorough mental and physical cleansing, 6 months after my diagnosis, I was able to get the medical profession to agree with what I already knew, that I no longer had even a trace of cancer. Now I knew from personal experience that disease can be healed if we are willing to change the way we think and believe and act. Again, her claims of healing her own cancer have never been confirmed by a doctor. Her claims really are just, trust me, I'm telling the truth. Where's the doctor's notes? Where's the x-ray scan? Where is anything that could show that what she says is correct? She was very vague, and all the examples that she gave about people that she healed from physical ailments were like, this man, this boy, this woman, no details, no names, no way to follow up. So again, I have to really say to Rachel Hollis, like, you should probably stop recommending this book to people. It's very offensive to the LGBTQ plus community. It's offensive to women. It's offensive to people going through cancer. It's offensive to pretty much anyone going through any one of these lists of ailments. And I would be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to even say that I consumed this book, that I put money into Louise Hay's estate by purchasing and reviewing this book, but maybe it'll turn some people off from ever looking at it at a bookshelf and going, wow, that looks interesting, let me buy it, because it's just a huge disappointment at the best and a huge mockery of all illnesses and the entire medical community at its worst. So thank you to my patrons for supporting this video and for supporting me in general and making this content possible. You know, sometimes I do get angry making these videos, but I think it's so important to shed light on this bullshit that is just being peddled continuously for decades out there, and your help and support on this channel really allows me the time and the ability to make videos like this and to try to get the word out that stuff like this is just bananas. And I appreciate all the support. It could not happen without you, so thank you. And if you'd like to join, there's a link in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great day. Choose sadness. Peace.